In the heart of the Galactic Military Academy on Vethros Prime, Sergeant Krix'tan has spent 40 years breaking recruits from 100 different species. He has trained the deadliest warriors the galaxy has ever produced. He has never, not once, failed to dominate a training session. Then Command sends him a human. Private Aria Thorne arrives with a polite smile, standard issue armor, and absolutely no understanding that she is supposed to be terrified. What follows is a systematic demolition of everything Korath believes about combat, endurance, and the natural order of the universe. Because humans did not evolve on a civilized world, they evolved on Earth, a death trap of a planet where the atmosphere is corrosive, the fauna is homicidal, and the dominant species apparently decided the best response was to become even more terrifying than their environment. When Korath's ceremonial baton, forged from compressed stellar alloy, shatters against her chest plate and she responds with nothing but curiosity, the Academy begins to understand a horrible truth. They have not been training this human. She has been studying them. The first time I saw a human, I laughed. I am not proud of this. In my defense, I had consumed 3 servings of fermented craft nectar, and Private Thex had just finished telling us about his cousin, who served on a border patrol vessel near Sol System. According to Thex, his cousin had watched a human consume a substance called ghost pepper, and then complained that it was not spicy enough. We thought Thex was a liar. We thought his cousin was a liar. We thought the entire species was some sort of elaborate military prank designed to test our credulity. Then she walked into the Academy compound, and I realized the joke was on us. My name is Senior Observer Prelax, and I have served as the official chronicler of the Vethros Military Academy for 19 years. I have documented the training of over 4,000 recruits from 67 different species. I have witnessed acts of extraordinary courage, spectacular failure, and everything in between. I have never witnessed anything like Aria Thorne. She arrived on a standard transport shuttle, carrying a single rucksack and wearing what appeared to be casual civilian clothing. The other recruits from her intake, a mixed group of Kathrani, Voss, and 2 nervous Pelian twins, clustered together at the far end of the landing platform. They had clearly been briefed on proper Academy protocol. They stood at rigid attention, eyes forward, mandibles, or equivalent facial structures, locked in expressions of appropriate solemnity. Private Thorne was examining a flowering plant near the platform's edge. "Huh," she said, "and I must tell you that this single syllable would come to haunt my dreams. This looks almost like jasmine. Parallel evolution, maybe?" She glanced up at the nearest Academy instructor, a junior assessor named Velix. "Does it smell nice? I am not sure if I should stick my face in it. Some things that look pretty are actually pretty toxic. Learned that one the hard way when I was 6. Velix stared at her. In 19 years I had never seen him at a loss for words. "It is a decorative specimen," he managed. "Please join the formation, Private." "Right, sorry." She jogged over to the other recruits, then paused. "Oh, I should probably ask. Is there anything I should not eat while I am here? I have got a pretty robust digestive system, but I do not want to accidentally poison myself on day 1. Bad first impression." The Pelian twins edged away from her. Velix consulted his data tablet, clearly hoping to find some regulation that would explain how to handle this situation. "Human dietary requirements have been filed with the commissary. You will be provided with appropriate sustenance." "Awesome, thanks," she smiled at him. It was a pleasant smile, entirely genuine, and it made Velix's throat membranes flutter with instinctive alarm. I made a note in my observation log. First contact with human recruit. Subject displays inappropriate social behavior and concerning interest in local flora. Recommend close monitoring. If I had known what was coming, I would have recommended orbital bombardment. The Academy compound on Vethros Prime is one of the most prestigious military training facilities in the Galactic Concordat. Over 300 years of operation, we have produced generals, admirals and elite special forces operatives who have shaped the course of interstellar history. Our training program is brutal by design. The washout rate averages 40%. Those who graduate emerge as hardened warriors capable of serving in any theater of conflict the galaxy might present. The program is overseen by Training Commandant Vos Kithrini, a decorated veteran of the Spire Nebula campaigns, but the actual breaking of recruits falls to the senior drill instructors, and none is more feared than Sergeant Korath. I have watched Korath train recruits for 11 years. I have seen him reduce a Vos heavy worlder to tears within 10 minutes of arrival. I have seen him make a Kethrani warrior, a species that does not possess tear ducts, somehow produce moisture from its eyes through sheer psychological pressure. He is not unnecessarily cruel, but he is absolutely relentless. His job is to find weaknesses and exploit them, to strip away everything soft and comfortable, and leave behind only the hardcore that can survive combat. He had never trained a human before. Nobody had. So, Korath said, stalking down the line of new recruits on their first morning of physical assessment. His voice was the auditory equivalent of gargling broken glass. Command has decided to bless us with the Alliance's newest member species. A human. He stopped in front of Private Thorn, looming over her. Korath stands 2.3 meters tall, with 4 arms, dense grey hide, and tusks that could gore through light vehicle armor. He is specifically designed by evolution to be intimidating. Arya Thorn tilted her head back to look at him. Morning, Sergeant. Did I give you permission to speak? No, Sergeant. Then why are you speaking? You asked me a question, Sergeant. Korath's eyes narrowed. I could see him recalculating. This was not the response he usually received. New recruits typically responded to his initial approach with either terrified silence or stammering attempts at appeasement. This human was just talking, like a normal person. I did not ask you a question, Private. I made a statement. Statements do not require responses. Understood, Sergeant. My mistake. Your mistake. He leaned closer. Your species has made a great many mistakes coming here. Do you know what we do to soft species at this academy? Private Thorn appeared to consider this. Train them until they are not soft anymore? One of the Pelion twins made a small sound of horror. Korath's tusks ground together. Are you trying to be clever with me, Private? No, Sergeant. I am trying to answer your questions accurately. Would you prefer I be less accurate? I put down my observation stylus because my hands were trembling. In 11 years I had never seen a recruit speak to Korath like this. Not because they were brave, but because they were sane. Antagonizing Korath was roughly equivalent to poking a plasma conduit with a metal rod. You did not do it because the consequences were both immediate and severe. But here was the thing that I would come to understand about humans over the following weeks. They were not antagonizing. They were not being defiant or disrespectful. They simply had a completely different understanding of what constituted threatening behavior. Arya Thorn was not afraid of Korath, because she did not recognize that she was supposed to be afraid. Korath straightened up. Report to the physical assessment course, he said. All of you. Now. The physical assessment course at Vethros Academy is a 3-kilometer gauntlet, designed to test the fundamental capabilities of each recruit. It includes climbing walls, water obstacles, crawling sections, and various other challenges calibrated to be difficult but achievable for most species. The course record was held by a Vos Marine named Krath Thunderborn, who completed it in 8 minutes and 43 seconds. This record had stood for 22 years. Private Thorn completed it in 7 minutes and 12 seconds. But that was not the part that disturbed us. The disturbing part was that she did it while talking. This reminds me of the obstacle course at basic training back home. She called out to the nearest observer as she scaled the 12-meter climbing wall. We had this drill sergeant, absolute nightmare of a guy, used to make us run it in full gear during summer. That is like 45 Celsius, with humidity around 90%. She reached the top and vaulted over. I actually passed out once, heat stroke. Woke up in the medical tent and they made me run it again the next day. She hit the water obstacle, a 50-meter pool of temperature-controlled liquid designed to simulate hostile aquatic environments. Most species required breathers or protective equipment. Thorn simply dove in and swam. This is nice, she shouted, emerging on the far side. Very refreshing. What temperature is this? About 15 Celsius. Feels like spring back home. Observer Velix checked his instruments. The water is maintained at 4 degrees above freezing. Most carbon-based species experience severe thermal shock. Oh, that's why the Pelion kid is purple. Indeed, one of the Pelion twins was being fished out of the pool by medical drones, his skin having shifted to an alarming violet hue, indicating circulatory distress. Private Thorn continued through the crawling section, the weighted carry, and the final sprint without apparent difficulty. When she crossed the finish line, she was breathing hard but not incapacitated. "That was fun," she said. Korath was waiting for her. "Fun," he repeated. "Yes, Sergeant. The course that washes out 30% of recruits on the first day was fun. I mean, it was challenging. The weighted carry section was rough. But yeah." She smiled. "Fun." Korath looked at me. I had served with him for 11 years, and I had never seen that particular expression on his face. It was the look of a predator who has just realized that it is not the apex of the food chain. "The new training schedule begins tomorrow," he said. "I want this one in advanced combat conditioning. Level 9. I almost dropped my datapad. "Sergeant, Level 9 is for Special Forces candidates in their final year. She has been here for 1 day. "I am aware of the timeline, Observer." Korath's voice was very quiet. "Put her in Level 9. Level 9 Advanced Combat Conditioning is not really training in the traditional sense. It is more accurately described as structured brutality. The program was designed by Commandant Voss himself to break down experienced warriors and rebuild them into weapons. The exercises are punishing. The instructors are merciless. The equipment is designed to push biological systems past their safety limits." Private Thorn arrived at the Level 9 facility the next morning, eating something from a small package. "What is that?" demanded Senior Instructor Thex, Korath's second in command. "Protein bar. Want some?" She held it out. Thex recoiled. "Human food is not compatible with Kethrani biology." "Oh right. Sorry, we have got like capsaicin and stuff in everything. I heard that's basically a chemical weapon to you guys." "Capsaicin is classified as a Level 3 toxin." "Really? Huh. I have got some hot sauce in my kit if you ever want to try it. I mean, not that you should, but if you are curious." Thex stared at her. "Why would I be curious about ingesting poison?" "Fair point." She finished the bar and tucked the wrapper into her pocket. "So what are we doing today?" What they were doing that day was endurance training. Specifically, they were doing the exercise known as the Crucible, a 12-hour continuous physical ordeal that included running, fighting, climbing and survival scenarios with no rest breaks. The Crucible had a washout rate of 60% among Special Forces candidates. Several participants had died over the years, and the program had been modified multiple times to reduce the fatality rate to acceptable levels. "You will wear this," Thex said, handing Thorn a standard Academy combat suit. "The suit will monitor your vital signs and administer aid if you enter critical condition. When the suit sedates you, you have failed the exercise." Thorn examined the suit. "What counts as critical condition? Organ failure, cardiac arrest, loss of consciousness, or toxin levels exceeding species parameters." "Okay, and where's the actual armor?" Thex blinked. "That is the armor." Private Thorn held up the combat suit. It was the standard Academy issue, designed to provide moderate protection while allowing full range of movement. For most species, it was adequate for training purposes. "This," she seemed genuinely confused. "This is what? 5 millimeters of composite? What's the kinetic rating?" "The suit will absorb up to 400 joules of impact force." Thorn did some mental calculation. "So roughly equivalent to getting hit with a baseball bat." "I do not know what a baseball bat is." "Wooden stick. Humans hit balls with it for sport. Sometimes we hit each other." She shrugged. "Never mind. Is there anything heavier? This seems kind of thin for combat training." Thex's antenna quivered. "The Academy combat suit has been standard issue for 200 years. It is appropriate for all training scenarios." "If you say so." Thorn began putting on the suit. "Back home, our combat armor is usually rated for small arms fire, rifle rounds, shrapnel, that kind of thing. This feels more like, I don't know, workout clothes?" I made a note. Human displays unfamiliarity with standard protective equipment, possible indication of enhanced durability expectations. Or stupidity, unclear which. The crucible began at dawn. I am going to describe the next 12 hours as efficiently as possible, because frankly I am still processing what I witnessed. The first 4 hours consisted of continuous movement, running, climbing and swimming, across the Academy's most challenging terrain. The other participants, all final year Special Forces candidates, began dropping out around hour 2. By hour 4 only 3 remained, Private Thorn and 2 Voss heavy welders named Greth and Pollux. During hour 5 the combat scenarios began. Training drones attacked from multiple angles, requiring the participants to fight while maintaining forward progress. Greth took a direct hit to the thorax, and his suit sedated him. Pollux was overwhelmed by a coordinated drone assault and went down in hour 7. Private Thorn kept going. By hour 8 Instructor Thex had stopped providing commentary and was simply watching. Karath had arrived at some point and was standing beside him, arms crossed, saying nothing. During hour 9, the survival scenarios began. Temperature extremes, atmospheric contamination, simulated injury. Thorn's suit administered 7 doses of emergency medication to counteract the toxic atmosphere, but she did not slow down. Hour 10. The terrain shifted to vertical climbing with active obstacles. Thorn fell twice, catching herself both times, and continued ascending. Hour 11. Combat drones with increased aggression settings. Thorn took multiple hits that would have incapacitated any other recruit. Her suit's damage indicators were flashing red. She kept fighting. Hour 12. This is the part I cannot explain. The final challenge of the Crucible is called the Wall. It is a 20-meter vertical surface of smooth composite material with no handholds. Participants are expected to use their suits' climbing assists to scale it. The suits are designed to make this possible, but extremely difficult. It requires precise technique and careful energy management. Private Thorn looked at the wall. She looked at her suit's climbing assists. She looked back at the wall. Then she ran at it. I want to be clear about what happened next, because I have reviewed the recording footage multiple times, and I still do not fully understand it. Private Thorn sprinted toward a vertical surface, and somehow converted her horizontal momentum into vertical movement. She went up the wall like, I do not have a comparison. Nothing I have ever seen moves like that. She reached the top in approximately 4 seconds. When she pulled herself over the edge, she was bleeding from multiple wounds. Her suit was displaying critical damage warnings, and she was smiling. That was intense, she said. Karath had not moved for the last 3 hours. When Thorn finished the Crucible, he finally spoke. What was that? She looked down from the top of the wall. What was what, Sergeant? That. He pointed at the wall. What you just did? What was that? Oh, parkour. It is a movement discipline. We train it for urban combat, mostly, but it is useful for obstacles like this. Did I do it wrong? Parkour, Karath repeated. Yeah. The trick is to not think about falling. Once you think about falling, you tense up, and your center of gravity shifts. You have to just commit. Trust your momentum. Karath looked at me. I looked back at him. Neither of us had any idea what to say. Report to medical for evaluation, Karath said finally. Then report to my office. Yes, Sergeant. She began climbing down from the wall, wincing. Actually, is there a faster way down? I think I might have cracked a rib on that last drone hit. She had cracked 3 ribs. She had also fractured her left wrist, dislocated her shoulder, and suffered a moderate concussion. The medical staff listed 17 distinct injuries requiring treatment. She was cleared for active training the next morning. Humans have remarkable tissue repair capabilities, the chief medical officer told me, sounding shaken. Her bones are already showing signs of knitting. Her soft tissue damage is healing at roughly 4 times the expected rate, and her pain tolerance is, he paused. Concerning. Concerning how? She was in the examination room for 3 hours. She asked me twice if she could leave because she was bored. Private Prelax, this patient had bone fragments pressing against her lung tissue. She should have been immobilized with agony. Instead, she asked if we had any reading material. The next 3 weeks followed a pattern. Cadet would design a training exercise intended to find Private Thorn's limits. Private Thorn would complete the exercise. Cadet would design a harder exercise. Private Thorn would complete that one too. I documented all of it. Week 1, Combat Scenarios. Thorn demonstrated proficiency with every weapon in the Academy arsenal, and several that were not. She also demonstrated an unsettling tendency to improvise weapons from her environment. During one exercise, she incapacitated a training drone using a broken chair leg. Humans have been using clubs for about 2 million years, she explained when Thex asked her about it. It is kind of our thing. Week 2, Tactical Simulations. Thorn's scores were not the highest in her cohort, but her solutions were consistently unexpected. During one scenario designed to test defensive fortification, she abandoned the fortified position entirely and launched a preemptive assault on the enemy staging area. Defense is fine, she said afterward, but the enemy gets to pick the time and place. Offense means you control the engagement. Week 3, Specialist Training. This was where things became strange. Cadet assigned Thorn to the Academy's most demanding specialist track, Close Quarters Combat Instruction. The course was led by a Pelian weapons master named Instructor Vex, who had trained Special Forces operatives for 30 years and had never encountered a species he could not predict. The human fights wrong, he told me after her first session. His voice was oddly flat. Wrong how? Her techniques are contradictory. She will execute a perfect defensive sequence and then immediately transition to an offensive form that should not work but does. Her strikes generate more force than her mass should allow. She attacks angles that should not exist. He paused. And she talks while fighting. She talks? Constantly. She asked me about my family during a knife drill. I almost lost a finger. I observed her next training session personally. Vex was right. She talked constantly. Not taunting or intimidation, just conversation. She asked about his training background, his favorite weapons, whether he had any pets, all while engaged in combat that would have killed most beings. Is this a human combat technique? I asked her, afterward. The talking? She thought about it. Kind of. It helps me stay relaxed. If I am talking, I am not overthinking, plus it messes with opponents who are not used to it. She grinned. Also, I am genuinely curious. Instructor Vex has really good stories. At the end of week 3, Korath called a meeting of all senior training staff. I was not supposed to attend, but I positioned myself near an air vent that allowed me to hear the conversation. We need to discuss the human, Korath said. Which aspect? Asked Instructor Vex. Her physical capabilities? Her pain tolerance? Her complete disregard for normal fear responses? All of it. Korath's voice was heavy. She completed the level 9 curriculum in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. The average completion time is 11 months. She is not average, said Instructor Vex quietly. She is not anything we have seen before. Then what is she? The question hung in the air. Finally, the chief medical officer spoke. I have been researching human biology since she arrived. I thought there might be something abnormal about this particular individual. Instead I found... He hesitated. I found Earth. What about it? It is a death world, Class 12 by our standards. Silence. Class 12 death worlds are environments so hostile that they are considered theoretically uninhabitable by advanced life. High radiation, toxic atmosphere, extreme temperature variations, predatory fauna. The classification system only goes up to 15, and those are theoretical constructs used for worst-case scenario planning. That cannot be correct, Korath said. I have verified it with multiple databases. Earth has a corrosive oxidizing atmosphere. The solar radiation is intense enough to cause cellular damage with moderate exposure. 70% of the surface is covered with a substance that is toxic to drink and will kill you if you submerge in it for more than a few minutes without protection. The land areas are populated with predatory life forms, venomous organisms, and geological instability including volcanic activity and tectonic movement. And humans evolved there. They did not just evolve there, Sergeant, they conquered it. They are the apex predator of a Class 12 Deathworld. They did not adapt to their environment, they forced their environment to adapt to them. Another silence, longer than the first. That explains her physical capabilities, Instructor Thek said slowly. But what about her attitude? She does not seem to understand that things are supposed to be difficult. The medical officer made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. I could not tell which. That is because her entire evolutionary history has been difficult. Every single challenge we present to her is easier than what her ancestors faced daily just to survive. We are not testing her limits, Sergeant. We are giving her a vacation. The next morning, Korath met Private Thorn on the main training field. I was there to observe, as always, but something felt different. Korath was carrying his training baton, the ceremonial weapon used by senior drill instructors for decades. It was forged from compressed stellar alloy, one of the hardest materials in the Concordat. Instructors sometimes used it for demonstrations. They never used it on recruits. Private Thorn, Korath said. His voice was strange, almost formal. Sergeant, you have completed every challenge this academy has presented to you. You have broken records that stood for decades. You have done all of this while maintaining what appears to be a pleasant disposition. He paused. I find this irritating. Sorry, Sergeant. You are not sorry. You are incapable of being sorry because you do not understand what you are doing to us. He raised the baton. I am going to ask you a question, and I want you to answer honestly. Have you been holding back? Thorn tilted her head. Holding back how? In your training, in your assessments. Have you been limiting yourself to avoid standing out? She considered this with what appeared to be genuine thoughtfulness. I do not think so. I have been trying my best on everything. Your best? Korath stepped closer. Let me tell you what I think, Private. I think you have been operating at a level you consider normal. I think your normal is so far beyond our expectations that you do not even recognize the gap. I think you have been treating this entire program as, what did you call it? Fun? I mean, parts of it were fun. Korath swung the baton. It was a full-force strike, aimed at her chest. The kind of blow that would collapse a Kethreni's thorax or shatter a Pelian's carapace. The compressed stellar alloy connected with her academy combat suit, with a sound like a thunderclap. The baton shattered. I am not exaggerating. The ceremonial weapon that had been used by drill instructors for 80 years, forged from one of the hardest materials in known space, broke into 3 pieces against the human's chest plate. Arya Thorn looked down at the fragments on the ground. Then she looked up at Korath. Then she tilted her head, and I saw something in her eyes that I had not seen before. Interest. My turn? She asked. I need to be very precise about what happened next, because the official academy records have been, let us say, edited for diplomatic purposes. What I am about to describe is the truth as I witnessed it. Korath looked at the broken pieces of his ceremonial baton. He looked at the human standing in front of him, completely unharmed, asking if it was her turn. And something shifted in his expression. In 11 years of observation, I had catalogued every emotional state Korath was capable of displaying: anger, contempt, grudging respect, satisfaction when a recruit finally broke through their limitations. I had never seen fear. I saw it now. But here is the thing about Korath. He was not a coward. He had earned his position through decades of combat and training, and whatever fear he felt, he did not let it stop him. Yes, he said. Your turn. Private Thorn did not move immediately. She stood there studying him, and I realized with a chill that she was doing exactly what he always did to recruits. She was assessing, finding weaknesses, calculating angles of attack. Are you sure, Sergeant? Her voice was calm, almost gentle. I do not want to hurt you. I have been struck by Voss heavy worlders, Private. I have survived plasma burns and kinetic impacts that would have killed most beings in the Concordat. I think I can handle one human. Okay, she rolled her shoulders, a small preparatory movement. But I want to be clear, you are giving me permission to actually try. I am giving you an order to actually try. Understood. She moved. I have reviewed the recording footage of this moment over 300 times. I have consulted with movement analysts, combat specialists, and biomechanics experts from 4 different species. None of them can fully explain what they saw. Arya Thorne covered the distance between herself and Korith in approximately 0.4 seconds. She did not run in a straight line. She ran in a pattern that seemed random but was actually designed to prevent him from tracking her movement. Her body stayed low, center of gravity shifting with each step, presenting no stable target. Korath swung at her. He was fast for his size. I had seen him strike before, but she was not there. She had already moved, not backward but forward, and to the side, inside his guard where his longer limbs became a disadvantage. What followed was not a fight. It was a demonstration. She struck him 6 times in 3 seconds. Each blow landed on a precise anatomical point, nerve clusters and joint weaknesses that should not have been obvious to someone who had been studying Korath's species for only 3 weeks. He staggered. She swept his legs. He went down, all 240 kilograms of him, and she was on top of him before he hit the ground. Her forearm pressed against his throat. Not hard enough to crush his windpipe, but hard enough to make the threat clear. Yield? She asked. Korath stared up at her. His tusks were fully extended, an involuntary threat display, but he was not struggling. I think he understood in that moment that struggling would not help. I yield, he said. She released him immediately and offered her hand to help him up. He took it, and I saw his expression shift again. Not fear this time. Something more complicated. How long? He asked. How long what, Sergeant? How long have you been learning to fight like that? She thought about it. Formally? Since I was about 6. My dad enrolled me in martial arts classes, but honestly humans start learning to fight before we can walk. Siblings wrestling, playground scuffles, we are she paused, searching for the right word. A competitive species. You have been training for combat since you were 6 years old? Most humans start earlier than that, actually. I was kind of a late bloomer. Korath was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something I had never seen him do in 11 years of service. He laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. It was the laugh of someone who has just realized that the universe is much stranger and more dangerous than they had previously understood. But it was genuine. Dismissed. Private, he said. Report to my office at 1400 hours. We need to discuss your training program. Yes, Sergeant. She started to walk away, then paused. Sergeant, are you okay? I tried to pull my strikes, but I might have hit harder than I meant to. Korath touched his throat, where her forearm had pressed. I am fine, Private. Okay, good. She smiled at him, and it was the same pleasant, genuine smile she had given everyone since she arrived. See you at 1400. She jogged off toward the barracks, leaving Korath standing in the middle of the training field with the broken pieces of his baton scattered around his feet. I approached him carefully. Sergeant, should I summon medical personnel? No, he was still looking in the direction Thorne had gone. Observer, I need you to do something for me. Of course, Sergeant. I need you to contact Cadet Military Command. Tell them we need a full briefing on human combat capabilities, human evolutionary history, and human military doctrine. He paused, and tell them to send it classified. I do not want this information getting out until we understand what we are dealing with. You think she is dangerous? Korath finally looked at me. I think she is the most dangerous thing that has ever walked into this academy, and I think she does not even know it. The briefing from Cadet Military Command arrived 2 days later. I was given clearance to review it because of my role as official chronicler. I wish I had not been. The document was 400 pages long, compiled from intelligence reports, xenobiological studies, and classified military assessments. It painted a picture of a species that should not exist. Humans evolved on a planet where everything was trying to kill them. The atmosphere was a corrosive oxidizer, the solar radiation was intense enough to cause cancer, The weather patterns included electrical storms, frozen precipitation, and wind events capable of destroying structures. The geological activity included earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and something called tsunamis, which are apparently walls of toxic water that periodically sweep across coastal areas and destroy everything in their path. And that was just the environment. The fauna of Earth was worse. Predators with teeth and claws, venomous creatures that injected toxins through bites or stings, parasites that lived inside other organisms and consumed them from within, bacteria and viruses that caused disease. One section of the report described something called a botfly, which implants its larvae under the skin of other animals where they grow and feed on living tissue. Humans had survived all of this. Not just survived, thrived, conquered. They did it by becoming the most adaptable, persistent and creatively violent species their planet had ever produced. They hunted animals larger than themselves by chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion. They domesticated wolves, one of their planet's apex predators, and turned them into loyal companions. They developed tools, then weapons, then agriculture, then cities, then nuclear devices capable of destroying those cities. They also developed something the report called combat sports. These were recreational activities where humans fought each other for entertainment. Not simulated combat. Actual fighting, with actual injuries, watched by audiences who cheered. The report listed dozens of variations. Boxing, wrestling, something called mixed martial arts, that combined multiple fighting disciplines. Humans did this for fun. They did it for money. Sometimes they did it just to see who was better. The section on human military history was even more disturbing. Humans had been fighting wars for their entire recorded history. They had developed every category of weapon imaginable, from sharp sticks to thermonuclear devices. They had refined the art of killing each other to an extraordinary degree, with specialized units for every conceivable type of combat: infantry, armor, artillery, naval, aerial, special operations, psychological warfare. They had also developed something called military academies, institutions specifically designed to train professional soldiers. The report noted that human military academies had been operating for centuries, producing officers who treated warfare as both a science and an art. Deathworld's academy had been training warriors for 300 years. Humans had been doing it for 3,000. The final section of the report was a threat assessment. It was written by a senior analyst at Cadet Military Command, someone with decades of experience evaluating potential adversaries. The assessment was 1 paragraph long. Human integration into Cadet military forces should be approached with extreme caution. Individual humans represent combat assets of exceptional value, but their species-wide capabilities suggest a civilization optimized for conflict at every level. If humanity ever unified against the Cadet, conventional military doctrine would be insufficient. They do not fight the way we do. They fight the way their planet taught them to fight, with everything all the time, until one side is destroyed. This analyst recommends immediate diplomatic priority on maintaining positive relations with Earth and its colonies. The alternative is not war as we understand it. The alternative is extinction. I read that paragraph several times. Then I went to find Sergeant Krix'tan. "You have seen the briefing," he said. It was not a question. "Yes, Sergeant." We were in his office, a sparse room with few decorations except for the ceremonial weapons mounted on the walls. The broken pieces of his training baton were sitting on his desk. He had not disposed of them. "What do you think?" he asked. "I think I understand why she did not flinch when you hit her. She did not flinch because the strike was not hard enough to warrant flinching. That is what the briefing taught me." He picked up one of the baton fragments. "Do you know what compressed stellar alloy is rated to withstand?" "No, Sergeant." 1,200 joules of impact force. It is one of the hardest materials we can manufacture, and it shattered against her chest plate. He set the fragment down. "The suit itself is rated for 400 joules, so where did the extra 800 joules go?" I thought about it. Her body absorbed them, and she asked if it was her turn. He leaned back in his chair. I have been a drill instructor for 40 years. I have trained Vos, Kithrani, Pelions, and a dozen other species. I have never, not once, had a recruit absorb a blow that should have crippled them and then ask for permission to reciprocate. What are you going to do? I am going to finish her training, and then I am going to recommend her for immediate deployment to the most dangerous theater of operations in the Concordat. This surprised me. You want to get rid of her? No, observer. I want to point her at our enemies and see what happens. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the training fields below. She is not the most skilled fighter I have ever trained. She is not the strongest or the fastest, but she has something that none of my other recruits have ever had. What is that? She is not pretending to be a warrior. She simply is one. Her entire species is. They do not put on aggression like a uniform. It is woven into their cells. He turned back to me. And the most terrifying part? She is nice. She is friendly and curious, and genuinely kind. She asks about people's families. She shares her food. Is that terrifying? Yes, observer, because it means they are not monsters. Monsters I could understand. Monsters are simple, but humans are people, just like us, who happen to have evolved on a world that turns people into weapons. He paused. What do you do with a weapon that has feelings? How do you point it at your enemies when it might decide at any moment that it does not want to be pointed? I did not have an answer. The next 6 weeks were, in retrospect, the most important period of my career as an observer. I watched Arya Thorne complete her training at Deathworld Academy, and I documented everything. She finished the advanced combat curriculum in record time. She qualified as expert with every weapon system in the Concord arsenal. She passed the tactical examination with the highest score in Academy history, not because she was smarter than the other candidates, but because she approached problems in ways that the examination designers had never anticipated. She does not think in terms of doctrine, Instructor Thex told me after reviewing her tactical scenarios. She thinks in terms of victory. Doctrine is a tool. If the tool does not work, she discards it and finds another one. She also made friends. This was perhaps the most remarkable aspect of her time at the academy. Despite her obvious physical superiority, despite the way other recruits looked at her with a mixture of awe and fear, she treated everyone with the same cheerful friendliness. She helped struggling cadets with their training. She organized study groups for the tactical examinations. She remembered everyone's names and asked about their homes and families. By the end of her second month, she had become genuinely popular. I do not understand it, one of the Pelion twins told me. He had been terrified of her when she arrived. Now he considered her a close friend. She could destroy any of us without effort. Why is she so nice? Maybe that is how humans are, I suggested. But it does not make sense. If I were that powerful, I would. He stopped, thinking about it. Actually, I do not know what I would do. I have never been that powerful. Neither has anyone else in the Concordat. Perhaps that is the point. Private Thorne graduated from Deathworld Academy at the top of her class, with commendations in every category and a personal recommendation from Sergeant Krix'tan for Special Forces assignment. The graduation ceremony was attended by representatives from Concordat Military Command, who watched her receive her insignia with expressions I can only describe as nervous. After the ceremony, I found her outside the main hall, looking up at the sky. "Observer Prelax," she said when she noticed me. "Hey, nice ceremony, right?" "It was. Congratulations on your achievement, Private. Or should I say Specialist now?" "Specialist, Thorne. That sounds weird." "Good weird, though." She smiled. "Thanks for everything. I know you have been watching me this whole time. I hope I gave you good material." "You gave me material that will probably be classified for the next century." She laughed. "Yeah, I figured. Humans are pretty weird by galactic standards, right?" "You are." I searched for the right word. "Unique." "That is diplomatic." She looked back up at the stars. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are people scared of us? Humans, I mean. The other species in the Concord?" I considered lying. It would have been the polite thing to do. But she deserved honesty. "Yes," I said. "Some people are scared." She nodded slowly. "I figured. I have seen the way some of the instructors look at me, the way the other recruits looked at me when I first arrived. She paused. I get it. We are scary, our planet is scary, our history is scary. But, she turned to face me, we are also just people, you know. We want the same things everyone else wants. Safety, family, purpose. We just went through a lot to get here. Your planet made you strong. Our planet made us survivors. There is a difference. She smiled again, but it was sadder this time. Strength is what you have. Survival is what you do with it. Humans learned a long time ago that the best way to survive is together. That is why we are here. That is why we joined the Cadet. We do not want to fight the galaxy. We want to be part of it. And if the galaxy does not want you, then we will change their minds. That is what humans do. We do not give up. We do not stop. We keep going until things get better. She shrugged. Or until we die, I guess. But we usually do not die. I thought about the threat assessment from Cadet Military Command. The analyst had written about human warfare, about their capacity for violence, and their optimization for conflict. But he had missed something important. Humans were not optimized for conflict. They were optimized for persistence. They would keep going, keep trying, keep pushing until they got what they wanted, and what they wanted, apparently, was to belong. That was either the most reassuring or the most terrifying thing I had ever heard. The final entry in my observation log was written 3 months after Specialist Thorn graduated from Deathworld Academy. She had been assigned to a Special Forces unit operating in the periphery, one of the most dangerous regions in Concordat space. Her unit was tasked with counter-piracy operations against a particularly vicious group called the Shard Collective. The Shard Collective had been terrorizing the periphery for decades. They were well-armed, well-organized, and completely ruthless. Concordat forces had been fighting them for years with limited success. Specialist Thorn's unit was deployed for 6 weeks. The Shard Collective no longer exists. I obtained the after-action report through unofficial channels. It described a campaign of relentless, methodical violence that dismantled the collective piece by piece. Thorn's unit did not just defeat them, they erased them. Every base destroyed. Every ship captured or eliminated, every leader killed or captured. The report noted that Specialist Thorn had personally led 17 combat operations during the campaign. She had sustained multiple injuries, including 2 that should have been fatal. She had returned to duty within days each time. The report also noted that she had shown mercy to surrendering enemies and had advocated for rehabilitation programs for captured collective members rather than summary execution. When her commanding officer asked her why, she said, "They are not monsters. They are people who made bad choices. If we kill everyone who makes bad choices, there will not be anyone left." The final paragraph of the report was a commendation for exceptional service. It was signed by the commanding general of periphery operations. The general had added a handwritten note at the bottom. This officer represents the future of Concordat military capability. Recommend immediate promotion and expanded command authority. Also recommend that we never, under any circumstances, give humanity a reason to turn these capabilities against us. They are our allies. They must remain our allies. The alternative is unacceptable. I saw Specialist Thorn one more time, about a year after she graduated from the academy. She was passing through Deathworld on her way to a new assignment, and she stopped to visit Sergeant Krix'tan. I happened to be in his office when she arrived. She looked different. Older, somehow, even though only a year had passed. She carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who has seen real combat and survived. But she still smiled when she saw us, and it was still genuine. "Observer Prelex," she said. "Sergeant, good to see you both." Specialist Krix'tan stood up to greet her. "I have read the reports from the periphery. Impressive work." "Thank you, Sergeant. I had good training." "You had adequate training. You made it impressive." He paused. "I hear you have been promoted. Lieutenant now." "Yeah. They keep giving me more people to be responsible for. I think it is a test." "It is not a test. It is recognition." He looked at her for a long moment. "When you arrived at this academy, I thought you were soft. I thought your species was soft, hiding behind your smiles and your friendliness. I was wrong. We are friendly, Sergeant. That part is real. I know. That is what I was wrong about. I thought friendliness meant weakness. But your species is friendly because you can afford to be. You have nothing to prove. He picked up something from his desk and handed it to her. It was a piece of the broken training baton, polished and mounted on a small stand. I want you to have this. She took it, looking surprised. Sergeant, I cannot accept this. You can, and you will. That baton was carried by drill instructors at this academy for 80 years. It was supposed to be unbreakable. You broke it, and you did not even notice. He almost smiled. It is a reminder, for both of us. You remind me that strength is not always obvious. I remind you that you are stronger than you think. Lieutenant Thorne looked at the mounted fragment for a long moment. Then she looked up at Korath, and I saw something pass between them. Respect, understanding, maybe even affection. Thank you, Sergeant, she said. I will not forget. I know you will not. Humans never forget. He straightened up. Now get out of my office, Lieutenant. I have recruits to terrify, and you are ruining my reputation. She laughed and saluted, then turned to leave. At the door she paused. Sergeant? Observer? Can I tell you something? Go ahead, Korath said. When I first arrived here, I was scared. Not of the training, not of you. I was scared that I would not fit in. That I would always be the weird alien from the Deathworld that everyone was afraid of. She smiled. But you gave me a chance. You pushed me, and you challenged me, but you also treated me like a soldier, like a person. That meant more than you know. You earned it, Korath said. Maybe, but you let me earn it. That is not nothing. She nodded to both of us. Take care of yourselves, and if you ever need anything at all, you know how to reach me. Then she was gone. I finished my observation log that evening. The final entry was brief. Subject has completed training and entered active service. Performance exceeded all expectations. Psychological profile indicates stable, well-adjusted individual with strong social bonds and clear moral framework. Threat assessment, non-applicable. Specialist Thorne is not a threat, she is an ally. The distinction matters more than I previously understood. Final note for future observers. If you are ever assigned to document a human, do not make the mistake I made. Do not assume that their friendliness is camouflage or that their kindness is weakness. Humans are exactly what they appear to be. They are warm, curious, social creatures who want to connect with others. They are also the most dangerous species the galaxy has ever produced. These facts are not contradictory, they are complementary. Humans are dangerous because they care. They will fight to protect what they love, and they love easily and deeply. They will endure any hardship, overcome any obstacle, and destroy any enemy that threatens the people and places and ideas they have decided to value. Our job is to make sure we are among the things they value. So far we are doing well. Let us make sure it stays that way. Sergeant Korath retired from the academy 5 years later. At his retirement ceremony, he gave a speech that has since become required reading for all incoming Concordat military personnel. The speech was about adaptation, about recognizing that the galaxy is vast and strange and full of things we do not understand. He talked about his career, about the thousands of recruits he had trained, about the lessons he had learned. He ended with a story about a human who had walked into his academy with a smile on her face and broken his unbreakable baton without meaning to. She taught me something I should have learned decades ago, he said. Strength is not about power, it is about what you do with power. The human was stronger than me, faster than me, more resilient than me. She could have dominated every interaction. Instead, she asked about my family. She shared her food. She helped her fellow recruits. She was kind. I have trained warriors for 40 years. I have broken recruits from 100 species and rebuilt them into soldiers. I thought I knew what strength looked like. I was wrong. Strength looks like kindness from someone who does not need to be kind. Strength looks like mercy from someone who could destroy you without effort. Strength looks like a human asking if you are okay after she has just demonstrated that she could kill you with her bare hands. The humans are our allies now. They fight beside us. They die beside us. They are part of the Concordate, and I believe they always will be. But let us not forget what they are. Let us not forget that they come from a world of poison and fire and predators, and they conquered it by being more stubborn and more creative and more violent than anything else on their planet. Let us not forget that their friendliness is a choice, not a limitation. Let us make sure they never have a reason to choose differently. Because I have seen what a human can do with a broken chair leg. I have felt what a human can do with her bare hands. And I have read the reports about what humans can do with starships and armies and nuclear weapons. We do not want to be on the wrong side of that. Trust me, I have the scars to prove it. General Aria Thorne, retired from Concordate military service 32 years after she graduated from Deathworld Academy. By that time she had commanded fleets, won battles that should have been unwinnable, and become one of the most decorated officers in Concordate history. She had also adopted 3 orphaned Pelian children, learned to speak 6 alien languages fluently, and established a foundation that provided educational opportunities for underprivileged youth across the Concordate. At her retirement ceremony, she was asked what her greatest accomplishment had been. She thought about it for a moment. "Making friends," she said. The audience laughed, thinking it was a joke. It was not. "I am old now. I have been the official chronicler of Deathworld Academy for over 50 years. And I have documented thousands of recruits from hundreds of species. I have seen courage and cowardice, triumph and failure, and everything in between. But I have never seen anything like the humans. They are still here, still part of the Concordate, still fighting beside us and dying beside us. They are still friendly, still curious, still terrifying. I think about Lieutenant Thorne sometimes. General Thorne, I should say. I think about the way she looked at Sergeant Krix'tan after he hit her with everything he had, and she tilted her head and asked, "My turn." She was not being aggressive. She was not being threatening. She was just asking permission, making sure it was okay. That is what humans are. They are polite apocalypses. They are friendly extinction events. They are kind, curious, warm-hearted people who also happen to be the most dangerous things the galaxy has ever produced, and they are on our side. Thank the stars for that. Because if they were not, well, I do not think the galaxy would survive the alternative.